computer.
Ready? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our student community conversation on reimagining multilingual learning. My name is Nasra. I'm a former EL myself, currently a student at Boston University. Additionally, I'm the student specialist intern in the Office of English Learners at Boston Public Schools. I'll be facilitating tonight's conversation. Before we move any further, I'd like to introduce our Asl Interpreters, Lena Jenny and Rachel Judelson. Thank you for your support. Today, we are conducting the meeting in English, but if at any point a panelist wants to speak in their native language, one of our OEL staff members will interpret consecutively for us. Presenters, please remember to speak slowly and be mindful of the simultaneous ASL interpretation. Next slide. Again, welcome to our student community conversation on reimagining multilingual learning. As I mentioned, my name is Nasra, and I'll be facilitating this evening conversation with the help of my colleague, Daphne Germaine, Acting Assistant Superintendent of the Office of English Learners. We're also supported by other colleagues from the Office of English Learners, Community Engagement Team, and Recruitment Cultivation and Diversity Office. So thank you for everybody. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to share a brief update on dual language programming. In addition to this, the purpose is also to learn about the process and to share input on the roadmap for quality education for multilingual learning. This meeting is part of a larger series of meetings in which we are beginning to reimagine the Office of English Language Learning. So our agenda for this evening is to first hear a brief update on dual language programming, followed by a presentation on the roadmap to quality education and multilingual learning. And then we'll have a student panel discussion followed by an opportunity for questions or comments from all students. Next slide.
Nasser, will you slow down for the interpreter?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Thank you.
Let's see, I should have slowed down too. So on this slide, I just wanted to emphasize that we should be respectful of everybody's time. We'll wrap up around 6 p.m. Also, tonight's meeting is being recorded to serve as a resource for those who couldn't be here today. Our ways of being for this meeting are to be present, respectful, open-minded, engaged, and to lean into discomfort. So now, to introduce my colleague, Daphne. Ms. Daphne Germain is a BPS alumna and a graduate of Boston University as a recipient of the Thomas M. Menino Scholarship. She has over 15 years of experience focused on strategic planning and development, project management, and human capital development in BPS. She's a former English learner, immigrant student who experienced the district's EL program. She is the first BPS alum of Haitian descent who will serve as the interim assistant superintendent of the Office of English Learners, OEL. And she's an active resident of Boston, fierce advocate for social and racial justice, is a strong believer in the assets of our immigrant students and families, what they bring to the city. Without further ado, please welcome Ms. Daphne Germain.
Nasra, thank you. Thank you, Tony, as well. I appreciate the word of encouragement in the chat. I want to say welcome to each and every one of you in this conversation. My part, I hope to be very brief. Next slide. As some of you are aware, and for students themselves, that Boston Public Schools currently offers 6 different types of programs for students when they come in as an English learner in BPS to help them learn English. Many of them experience what we call our SCI language specific program that helps them learn English, but within 2 to 3 years, they usually transition out of these programs. We also have dual language programs where students are able to learn in English and their native language simultaneously. We offer these programs for Spanish students. We opened up a new program for Haitian students, as well as a new program for Vietnamese students. Our hope, as well as the Horace Mann, that offers programs for ASL and English, as well as a dual language program. But many of our students experience learning English and academic content, academic language in a general ed setting with teachers who usually do not speak their language. Next. Boston Public Schools right now is in a very pivotal moment in terms of its history. We are looking to shift the paradigm. We want to change things for the betterment of our students. And so the state passed a new law called the Look Act, where it has provided the district the opportunity to offer more native language opportunities for our students. Dr. Caselius, also as a superintendent, after having engaged the community and heard back from many of our different stakeholders, has launched a strategic vision where within it there is a commitment for us to increase and have a new vision for bilingual programming in the Boston Public Schools. So now is the time for us to come together, and since February, we have been collecting input from different community groups in their languages across the city of Boston to hear what is it that they desire for English learners or students who want to learn another language in BPS. Next slide. Okay. One of the things I will definitely share with you about what we have heard from parents and community members, that being bilingual is a superpower. And it is something that we want to ensure all of our students have the opportunity to be able to grow. Earlier today, our principals met and they featured two schools, the Hernandez and the Matahunt, the Hernandez Spanish program and the Matahunt Haitian Dual Language program, where children are able to celebrate their community, their language, not only amongst themselves, but with the school at large. Next. If you did not know, what we wanted to share with you is that the research shows being bilingual is something that helps you throughout your life and your career. It helps you develop strong thinking skills. It helps you have greater cultural awareness. The process of switching from one language to another helps improve your logic skills. It helps increase your reading comprehension. Also, being bilingual supports you to be able to be quicker and nimbler in regards to the elasticity of your brain, as well as helping you prepare for future opportunities. Research continues to show, especially for our immigrant or English learner population, that the more access they have to dual language opportunities, the more it helps them in terms of closing what we call the achievement gap in academic settings. Next slide. What I wanted to share new with you that wasn't shared with the other communities is that from the input that we've received, what we've heard from communities overall are a couple of things. The first one is we want to provide opportunities for all students to become bilingual, bicultural. So on the right side of the slide, what you will see is that we want to offer more world language courses, more heritage language courses, more ethnic studies courses as an opportunity for students who are not English learners to themselves become bilingual. The other thing we heard from our parents is that they want more opportunities. So we want to grow more or add and increase more dual language programs and provide intensive programs for some of our diverse EL population. So students who are immigrant newcomers, so they've been into the US for less than 2 years, they need some special support. There are students who are coming from different backgrounds where they may not have had exposure to schooling before they came to the United States, and they're behind. They haven't learned to read or write in their native language. That is our high intensity literacy training program. As also, we want to provide what we call the accelerating academic language and literacy model. So that is for students who are having some difficulty in learning English, and after 5 or 6 years in an EL related program that they're not making progress, we want to work with them and provide some intensive supports. All these program models, we want them to be available not only for our diverse ELs, but also for our students who are both English learners and also students identified with disabilities. In the general ed classroom, so where for the most part we have the majority of our students, we want to make sure that all teachers are teachers of language. And so we're proposing that teachers are trained to become teachers of language through what we're calling the Content and Language Achievement Instructional Frame. Next slide. Okay. Now, what I've shared a lot of information in terms of some of the changes that we want to see made. One of the things I have learned in my work within Boston Public Schools and in other settings in my life is that every time that you are giving voice and power to those who have been marginalized within a power structure, it is inherently political. Because as you're changing power dynamics and you're asking people to share power or make space for you at the table, it does not always happen easily. One of the things we want our youth to know that bilingual programming is an effective anti-racist program. Its setup is to ensure that students are able to access what they need in order to show the greatness within them. Next slide. So at this point, I turn it over to Nasra, my colleague, as she will facilitate the panelist session at this moment. Thank you for letting me share with you.
Okay. Thank you, Daphne, for that lovely presentation. Now, moving on to the panel. While I introduce our panelists, my colleague Renee will be dropping the questions in the chat that we're going to cover today. So our three panelists today are Angel Castillo, Ana Hernandez, and Natalie Troncoso. Angel is a BPS alum of East Boston, a former Yale student, and currently he's an education major at Regis College and a BPS teacher cadet scholar. Similarly, Ana Hernandez is also a BPS cadet scholar, but she's currently in high school. And lastly, Natalie is also a BPS alum of BLA, a former bilingual student. All three of them were former bilingual students in Spanish, and she currently attends Connecticut College. But now I'm going to turn it over to Angel to give a fun fact about himself. Then we can have Anna and Natalie also do the same.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. Fun fact, I like to bike everywhere. I bike a lot. Do you all hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Is Anna next?
She is.
Oh, hi. I want to be a nanny.
Hi everyone, I'm Natalie once again, and my fun fact is that I'm almost trilingual in French.
Okay, guys, thank you for that. The first question is, what does multilingual learning mean to you?
I can start answering that. For me, multilingual learning is anyone who starts with their education in their native language and transition to a different language.
Hi. That means to me is when you are learning other language, like 3 or 4 language, you're learning to like one more other language.
And for me, on top of that, I think multilingual learning also opens you up to a whole new world of possibilities.
Could you just elaborate on what those possibilities are?
For sure. I think it really prepares you for what comes after school, whether that be college or work. And something that my father was told me that really helped me or helped for my passion with languages is that it sort of makes you more valuable when you enter the workforce.
Anything else to add? If not, then we can move on to the second question.
Can I just add one more thing?
Hmm?
I think multilingual learning can also be a sort of equalizer for disadvantaged students.
In which way?
When you immigrate to a country like the United States, where English tends to be sort of the standard and where countries abroad teach their students English to compete with this standard, I think a lot of students that immigrate here and don't already speak the language are at a disadvantage. So I think it's very important that these programs are in place to get them ready for school.
Definitely agree with that. All right, next question. How do you think we can improve bilingual education or dual language programming?
I think before you move on, Angel has raised his hand. Angel, you want to say something?
Oh no, I was just agreeing with Natalie.
All right, did you guys hear it or do you want me to repeat it?
You can repeat it, please.
Okay, the question is, how do you think we can improve bilingual education or dual language programming, which is English speakers learning other languages, and or English language learner resources?
Thank you. That's a great question. I think there is many ways that Boston Public Schools can improve bilingual education. Something that really come up to me right now, it's representation. I believe representation is essential in every school. In my 4 years of high school, I barely met a teacher with a similar background as me. Because of the lack of that representation, I remember wondering why there is not teachers that look like me, and then just jump in to the conclusion that people like me can pursue their dreams. I also feel like most of the time ESL students are overlooked. Sometimes there are resources for ESL students, but we cannot like find them easily. I feel like there should be more college readiness for ESL students, more mental health support, and more tutoring after school that allow them to see all the resources that the schools are offering.
Natalie?
Sure, I can go next. I completely agree with Angel. I was going to say something very similar as well. When I was still an English learner, all my teachers did not look like me, and they were not native speakers, and they tended to come from Spanish backgrounds, and the cultural differences didn't really align. You know, where the Spanish that we speak colloquially is not the same Spanish spoken in Spain. So it didn't really transfer, but I was also thinking about resources. I remember a lot of my books weren't in good condition. Sometimes there were classes of 30 or more students and there weren't even enough books for everyone in the class. So that really stuck out to me when I remember my time as an English learner.
Anna, is there anything that you would like to add, considering that you're still an EL student?
I would like to, would Renee be able to translate verbally the question? So it's, because she's currently an ELL student now. So I think that's just grasping her education now and thinking about the future might be a little bit difficult. Like if Renee, if you can translate that, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Ana, para ti, ¿qué significa el aprendizaje multilingüe? ¿Cómo crees que podemos mejorar la educación bilingüe, la programación en 2 idiomas? Específicamente también para los hablantes de inglés aprendan otros idiomas y los recursos para los estudiantes de inglés.
I think it can be helpful to the kids or child is learning to come different country and come to here to learn English. It can helpful to the teacher can be like more focused to the kids can be learning more to the other students because maybe the kids it like need more help for the other student and this can be more helpful for them.
And for Anna, if she feels more comfortable answering in Spanish, that she can also do that. Renee, can you let her know? And then you can translate for her.
Ana, si te sientes más cómoda hablando español, por supuesto que puedes hablar español y yo interpretaré por ti.
That's fine. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you guys for that. So unless you guys have anything more to say, I'll be moving on to the next question. Good. All right. So kind of on the same topic, how do you think we could improve the quality of instruction and the general experience at BPS?
Before we move on to the next question, I know, Nazra, you mentioned that you were a former, you taken different languages before. Would you be able to spread, as a BPS graduate, would you be able to share your experience as well?
Okay. I was an EL myself. I didn't speak English until I was like 4, but that was mainly because, you know, my parents were both immigrants. So and I'm the oldest, so they didn't need to speak English in the house. So then when I got to school, I don't really remember much of the experience because, you know, when you're a kid, you grasp it a lot easier. But I do remember it took me a while to understand the cultural differences, because I do know when I was growing up, there wasn't much of an emphasis of including my culture, especially considering that, you know, it was like mid 2000s or something. But now compared to back then, I'm sure there are more Somali immigrants. And then considering that there is, like, Somali is considered a major language of BPS now, there should be more resources, but back then there were not as much. So I don't remember ever feeling like my culture or my heritage or my language mattered in the class. I don't know about it now because I haven't been an EL student since elementary school, like maybe 5th grade. But I do recall that I had a problem with the culture. I didn't understand that in English, there's only one word for uncle, but in Somali, there's like multiple words for that. But in terms of learning another language, I took Spanish from freshman year until junior year of high school. And I actually found it, the way they were teaching, I found it to be boring. Like, it didn't interest me. I decided to take it in college because then when I got into the real world, I understood a lot more Spanish than I thought. And then I decided to take it in college. And I think BPS could definitely improve on involving more of like Latino, I don't want to say culture because there's so many different countries, but I think there should be more people who are native to their countries teaching the classes, because a lot of my teachers were white like teachers, educators who visited the country, lived in the country, learned the country, and don't even have the accent of somebody who, like, you know, is native to that language. So I think that's definitely something to look for, more native speakers.
I would like to add a little bit more about my experience as well. It's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, when I moved to United States, I remember when I went to school for the first time, I just remember feeling really isolated from people, lonely as well, because I didn't see a lot of people. The only class that I felt comfortable was in my ESL class. But then when I went to ELL, or I also started taking honor classes and AP classes, I was literally the only ESL student in that class. And I kind of like wonder, why is there no more ESL students with me right now? And I think back then I really didn't understand, but I just feel like so many ESL students do not have the knowledge or the abilities to go to those classes and ask for more help, or even apply to college. And yeah, just wanted to add that.
Mhm. Can I ask a follow-up question to both you and Nasra in terms of what supports did you receive, Angel, that lets you feel comfortable that, yes, I can do an honors AP course? And what would you, for you and Nasra, what would you ask to change in the system so that more students get access to this?
For me, it was just finding really passionate teachers and people that wanted to help. For example, my ESL teacher, her name is Miss Grasso. She had always like different, like she always like took the time to tell us what was going on in the school, what clubs we have, internship. She always had like all of those resources, and I think that kind of like pushed me, like seeing someone that truly believed in me really motivated me to ask for help and follow more things in school.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I'm one of the luckier Yale students, like former Yale students, because my parents both spoke English. So I didn't have, and on top of that, my father he was never away from academics. Him and my academics were like, if I had any bad grade, anything, he was on me. So I had a dad who knew the language and then knew how like to talk to my teachers, like went out of his way to involve himself in my academics. And a lot of people don't have that because, like I said, my parents speak English. A lot of Somali American kids, like their parents don't speak English. A lot of their parents don't really know how to navigate like the general like American culture, or just a bunch of them don't even understand credit and stuff like that. So it's harder to understand something more specific. Like there's certain lingo that they're not going to understand from schools. There's certain things that are not easily translatable from English to Somali. And I'm glad there's, OEL has Somali incorporated now. But, I'll definitely say that I would love to see more of that. I would love to see more Somali educators who are not necessarily, I don't have a problem with Somali American educators, but we don't know the language as well as like, generation for us, in order to like implement it in an educational way. So I would love to see more of that. BPS to hire more people, diverse people.
Thank you. Natalie, Anna?
I think Nasra and Angel really got the point across. Honestly, I can relate to a lot of it, and I agree with a lot of it. Something else that I think is really missing, I think I wouldn't know how to like apply for college or learn all these like leadership skills. I didn't get those through BPS. I got them through an outside program, through Stepping Stone, if you guys have heard of it. And it makes me think about, what about all the other students that didn't have this program? How were they going to get through? So there's that really big disparity where I got really lucky to find this program to have summer classes and learn all of this. But there needs to be something for these English learning students or financial literacy, something like that, to really level the playing field.
Mm-hmm.
Anna, do you have anything to add?
Yeah.
Could you repeat the question, Daphne, so I can write it on the chat for Anna?
No. What are the things that she experienced in BPS that she would like to change? And then what kind of change would she want to see to help support other students who will come after her?
¿Qué experiencias has tenido como alumna en las escuelas públicas de Boston que te han afectado o que tú quisieras compartir, y qué deseas que sea diferente para los otros estudiantes que estén entrando como aprendiz de inglés?
I think for my experiment, when I come here, my mom didn't speak anything English. It's only my dad, and when I come here in the ESL, when I have ESL, all the kids is only speak different language like Arabic, something like that, and I never had something to help me to translate for my language.
Quisiera clarificar lo que acabas de compartir. Estás diciendo que cuando entraste a las escuelas públicas de Boston, estabas expuesta a otros idiomas, pero no había traducción para tu mamá. No entendí claramente.
And be more comfortable to the other kids can learn more like English.
Thank you for that, Anna. Okay, so I know we talked about like a lot of criticisms that we have for the experience, but what would you say was a positive experience you had as an ELO student?
For me, it's like very hard. Like I've never had only for this year. I have only for kids can speak my language, but my other ESL is very difficult because I never have to a student or teacher can help me to what is he saying or can explain to me what he's talking about. And is like 2 years is very frustrating for me for that.
Thank you, Anna.
For me, just having really passionate teachers helping me in my journey, I think that really inspires me and motivates me every time. For example, I remember one time I was applying to college and I had to write 3-4 pages essay for scholarship that I was applying to, and one of my advisors, they made a time to meet with me during after school, and then just like having that support out there really inspired me to inspire me.
For me, a positive is sort of the opposite for Ana, because I did have many Spanish speakers in my classrooms. So to be able to have someone I could turn around to and say like, oh, like, what did he mean? And like really help each other. That was what really helped me make it through sometimes when it was a teacher who wasn't as accommodating for us.
Yeah. Can I ask a follow-up question, Asra?
Yes, go ahead.
Awesome. Follow-up to Natalie in terms of having peer support. What grade were you in? Do you think peer support if the district had a system to partner newcomer students with a peer of their same language, would that be a support for them? What would you think of an idea like that? Either doing it at the school level or doing it at the district level?
That's actually, in my eyes, that seems like a really good idea to have someone you could end up trusting and could end up being good friends as well, to be partnered with in class. I really like that idea.
Mm-hmm. Angel, I'm seeing you shake your head. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, that sounds really a really great idea. I think I had mentors in high school that really make a change in my life, and just like thinking about that and expanding it to every ESL student newcomer, that would be awesome.
Just talk about my experience. I feel like I had a similar experience to Anna. There weren't many I mean, there were plenty of Black students, but there aren't many Somali students. But I know BPS did allow like the schools, the spaces in the schools to be used for after school programs. So that's when I met a lot of like Somali students that went to different BPS schools. So that's just a positive experience that I had. And I still talk to some of the kids that I ended up going to these after school programs with.
And was those after school programmings done through your school, or was it something that your parents found for you?
Something my parents found. My dad kind of helped found it actually, so I was connected through that way.
You have an amazing father.
I know. But okay, so then I know you guys are speaking about your own experiences. Could you speak about any other experiences from other students that you know of? Other families? Anything that stuck with you over the years?
Ana, ¿tú tienes algo que puedas compartir sobre, porque compartiste tu experiencia? ¿Tienes conocimiento de la experiencia de otros estudiantes que puedas compartir con nosotros esta tarde?
No, en realidad no, no.
Ok.
I can share one of the experiences. When I was in high school, I was the teacher cadet program, which used to be called Bust into a Teacher program. And just like having that program really opened so many doors for me. And then now that I am, I actually got a full ride from that program, just want to say that. And then now that I'm in college and I came back as a mentor for the same program, just like having people trying to like find students that look like they're students right now, it's really helpful. I've been tutoring two students, Anna, it's one of them, and Raquel as well. They both speak Spanish, and just like seeing how Miss Wences go the extra mile to like find people that can relate to them, I think is really helpful. I wish every student can have that.
That is amazing. I would love to hear more about not only the teacher cadet program, but why you said yes to coming back as a teacher. It's as an EL, you had an experience, but now you're coming back. What inspired you?
I think my family inspired my mom, inspired me. My ESL teachers definitely made a huge difference in my life, and now seeing teachers like me inspire me as well. Like I said, I remember it's like feeling, oh, there is no one that looks like me. There is not teachers like me. Maybe I am not able to become a teacher. And then just like having all of those teachers of that support around me saying, yes, you can do it. I kind of like started believing in like, I started believing in myself and just like following that and changing that. And I want to be an ESL teacher because I want to tell them that they can do it, but they are going to like be able to see it as well.
Natalie, are you interested in becoming a teacher? Anna, as well, you guys interested in becoming teachers?
Education's not really the way for me, but I am very passionate about this.
Ana, ¿te gustaría ser maestra, educadora?
Sí.
Sí, ¿por qué?
Porque my mom, when he's in my country, he's teaching like in high school, something like that. And he's inspiring me how I can be a teacher. I have little kids I have my little brothers in home. My little brother, he's in K2 now. I see it and I teach him while he's learning, and I help him, and he's learning more like in the school, and I teach him.
It's wonderful. what I'm hearing across the themes is that though there were hard times and adversities, each of you made a decision to rise above it in order to not only move forward to achieve your dreams and focus on your studies and academics, but that there's this vision to come back and do something for another generation. Those are powerful stories. Mine as well was similar to that. My mother was an educator in Haiti. And working with little kids in the community here in Boston inspired me to be in education. Let's talk a little bit about that. As additional opportunities for ELs, if working with little ones, do you think if there were community programs to support with bilingual education where we can expose more students, do you think we would be able to tap into the high school student mentality to be able to come out and support and share their language, your language with a younger generation on a volunteer basis or even on a part-time basis? I'm seeing Natalie shaking her head. Go ahead, Natalie.
Absolutely. I think it makes me think of like the Big Brother, Big Sister program, only with languages this time. I think it could be very useful to tap into the little ones' minds very early on. And I think high schoolers would be very interested in it. They might, I think a lot of schools have a volunteer requirement. So that might be a little incentive, but I think many would do it out of their own kindness of their hearts.
Angel, do you have anything to add? Or because you're actually kind of an experience like that.
Yeah, I do agree with Natalie. That would be really great idea.
I've seen the lack of it. Like some summers ago, there was this new immigrant Somali girl, and personally, I'm not even that much older than her, but there weren't really many Somali interpreters, anything like that. So they asked me to, and I do know Somali, but it's like asking somebody who speaks conversational English to explain like physics in English. It's not the same thing if I don't understand the concept in English first, I can't explain it in Somali or vice versa. So I've seen the deficit. So I definitely agree. It's important that we do need actual educators, but it would also be nice to have peers who could do the same thing.
Nasser, you're hitting an important piece that there are in BPS a lot of students who are either former English learners or who are what we call heritage speakers, meaning they're not English learners, but their parents or grandparents may have spoken a language, they can hear it, but it doesn't mean that they know it. Do you think it would be a benefit for students to have access to Somali as like a Somali heritage student having access to Somali language in BPS to become proficient?
I definitely think that's super important. I feel like a lot of Somali speakers, like people in my generation, they understand and they can speak it to an extent, but the grammar really becomes an issue. And when you're talking to somebody else, there's a difference. There's a clear difference between when you're talking about like a person in English and like an object in English. But people who don't understand that difference in Somali address a person as if they were an object, like literally translate to that. So I think it would definitely be important to have that opportunity. It would definitely make communicating a lot easier.
Wow. This is a beautiful conversation. I have about 4 pages of notes so far. So let me ask, I know Nasra has additional questions?
No.
Go ahead, Nasra.
I guess I don't have a question that we've like worked on, but I have my personal question. I guess, what are you most grateful about being an EL learner? And then I guess after this, we can open it to the audience.
can start. I hope my fan isn't too loud, but I am most grateful so both of my parents did not speak English. And it wasn't until I learned that they sort of started to pick some English off of me. So I'm very grateful that I was able to help them, and it helped them like take their citizenship tests and all of that, because it is otherwise an opportunity they never would have had.
What's the question again?
What are you most grateful about for being an EL learner?
I am grateful for being in this journey, and every challenge that has come my way helped me to become the person I am today.
You can answer this question too, Daphne.
Let me just say for Ana, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Ana, ¿qué te agradece de ser un estudiante aprendiz de inglés?
I say thank you for joining me for this meeting. It's my first time. Thank you.
We're very happy to have you, Anna. And part of your experience also is where I would like to say where I'm grateful for my experiences in BPS. All of my family has gone through Boston Public Schools as English learners, newcomer English learners. My siblings came in high school, junior year, senior year high school. So they had like 1 to 2 years to learn English before graduating in BPS. Though I had more time because I started in first grade. The joy for me in BPS had been that I was within my community. I had people who looked like me, spoke Haitian Creole, French, and the teachers looked like me, and that was a beautiful benefit. But when I stepped into the other world, it taught me how to be brave. Be brave because you're learning other cultures and you're helping people learn about you. And that's that bravery that's got me to the point that I am coming back in BPS, and now I'm an assistant superintendent. That was not something my parents were thinking about. I wasn't even thinking about that in terms of being able to come back to BPS to influence the system in this way. So I'm grateful. That's what being an EL in BPS has given me. It's opened this door for me. And I hope that I'm replaced by another Boston Public Schools student, alum, former L student, bilingual, multilingual student, who will be able to push that vision forward. Thank you for asking me, Nasra. I appreciate that.
Before we open it up, just to answer for myself, I'm grateful to have witnessed the growth in the OEL department. I know I keep talking about how it wasn't the same when I was like, going through it and then now, but I think just, being a recent graduate of BPS, I see like what a huge difference there is. And like I said, I was lucky enough to have easier circumstances. Like that was a privilege I had, but I knew a lot of people that didn't, a lot of people who were living really tough lives, and their parents couldn't even understand it because not only was there a cultural barrier, but there was also a language barrier. So I'm glad that there are people who are closing that gap and making it easier for parents to connect. So yeah, now we can open up questions to the audience. We actually have a specific question for the audience, which is similar to what I was just asking of the panelists, and you can see in the chat, but also read out to you. As a student or on behalf of students, what resources would you have liked to enhance your experience in relation to English learner or multilingual learning? Yeah, you guys can just take some time to think about it. You could use the raise hand function or just speak if there's silence. And for Spanish speakers, Renee just translated it.
I'll read it. Voy a leer la última pregunta. Como estudiante, ¿qué recursos le hubiera gustado mejorar su experiencia en relación con el aprendizaje del inglés o el aprendizaje multilingüe?
So the question is open also to the panelists. You can jump in and respond to it.
I can speak about my own experience, even though it was a long, long time ago. And I have to agree with the panelists and everyone that spoke here. We've come a long way, and I know we have a long way to go too, but we've come a long way. I would agree some of the experiences that you've had, I've had. My mother was illiterate and didn't speak English. My father understood English and could read. And like Daphne, I was the youngest one. So I started school. I had more opportunities to learn English more so than my older siblings. And at the time, there weren't many Hispanic Latino teachers. There were white teachers who spoke Spanish. And I have to say that I had a great experience with my second grade teacher, who was white but spoke Spanish. She didn't speak it with an accent. Back then, I didn't understand white, black. So the fact that she spoke Spanish and she was able to be relatable brought me a sense of comfort. So that was my experience, and and I'm sure I can relate to a lot of the experiences that folks here have had.
Thank you for that, Renee.
You're welcome. Ana, como acabo de explicar a los que están acá, mi experiencia como aprendiz de inglés, he pasado muchas de las experiencias que han pasado ustedes. Mi mamá no hablaba inglés, pero tampoco sabía leer y escribir. Mi padre entendía inglés, pero no hablaba inglés. Como Daphne fui la más jovencita de mi familia. Éramos 8 que habíamos llegado acá a Boston, de Puerto Rico. Y mi primera experiencia con una maestra que hablaba español fue en segundo grado. Fue una experiencia positiva, a pesar de que ella era anglo, hablaba español sin acento. Y el hecho que podía yo comunicarme con ella en español me trajo un sentido de comodidad y por lo menos para mí esa fue una buena experiencia. No siempre la tuve, no siempre tuve maestras como ella, pero me puedo relacionar con ustedes.
I'm Maria Barbosa. I arrived, I came from west coast of Africa, the Cabo Verdean Islands, and I only spoke Portuguese and of course the dialect of Portuguese from the island of Fogo, which is Creole. And when I arrived, it was during April, the month of April, I mean, and when I went to school that September, they put me in 9th grade because I was 14, but I couldn't speak a word of English. I mean, imagine go to high school at the age of 14, beginning high school, and no English. I remember at that time, we still have ESL. So bilingual, I had 2 teachers. One was Miss Kennedy and Mr. Skidmore. And we literally did not move from that classroom. Although they all spoke Spanish, but none of them spoke Cape Verdean. But because I knew Portuguese, I was able to understand when they were speaking in Spanish, when they were trying to explain English through Spanish language. So it was either swim or sink, and I chose to swim. And my parents couldn't speak English. My mom ended up going to school after work just to learn enough language to maneuver herself in the society that we found ourselves in. And our father never learned English, like he never went back to school. He spoke Portuguese because we were colonized. We were in the 70s, we were still colonized by the Portuguese. And when we got here in the 80s, that's when we moved away from the colonization, but it was very much intact in us. So my father only kept the Portuguese language, and we had to learn English quickly because we were the backbone for our families. If they couldn't read a letter, if they had to go to either shopping or do immigration paper or house paper, it was all up to us. So our English came in quickly. And yeah, it was not easy. And I still managed to graduate in 4 years, but I wish I had gone to middle school in this country, because I feel like I lost so much. So being an immigrant child, and we were 6 siblings, and my father worked 2 jobs and our mother worked 1. And all of us in school at the same time. So we weren't running to the movies or doing fun things. It was always working. Yeah. But I'm very happy to see all of you here. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Maria. Hi, I'm sorry. I want to share what Ana has shared on the chat. She said from her experience, she would have liked to see more teachers and students who spoke Spanish because it was very difficult for her.
I would like to just add a couple of suggestions or innovative approaches when we're talking about languages. I think one thing for me, a little bit about my background is my parents, I'm a first generation college student. My first language was Haitian Creole. So my English, I learned English in school. So after first grade, I wasn't in any programming for that, but I had a multilingual like pre-K experience. And when I think about taking multilingual classes, I only spoke Spanish for 1 year, and I went to Academy of the Pacific Rim Charter School, which is Asian influence, so I know Mandarin. And a thing that and from learning Mandarin from 6th to 7th grade to 12th grade, I also took Mandarin in college. And I think that one of the reasons why I did that was I was immersed in the culture, not only in the language. So that means like we're learning about the food. Let's talk about the amazing multicultural food that people are fellowshipping over, that people are visiting, traveling, and talking about that. Because a lot of people love to travel, and a lot of people like, okay, I'm gonna go to this country, and then they might take these intro to this whatever language that they're doing. How can we emerge that into the school setting that makes learning about a different language fun and innovative, and like, I want to visit that country because I'm learning this language. Not only am I learning about the culture, now I'm practicing because now I have a goal to visit someone overseas or, you know, across the United States. I think that is very important too into the teaching and learning. It's like, how do we captivate? Languages are fun, you know, food is amazing. How do we incorporate that into our education to make other people excited about, you know, learning new languages and trying new foods? So I just wanted to share that aspect.
Okay, thank you for that. Does anybody else want to share? If not, I think we can move on to our closing remarks.
Though I've spoken much in this meeting, what I do want to say is how grateful I am across the board in this meeting. As I'm looking at those who are participating, 90% of them are immigrants or English learners themselves, and who have stories about how hard the journey was and who influenced them to keep on going. Because the journey doesn't just end when you graduate from high school. In college, it's a whole other experience as an immigrant student or an English learner, when you may not have the same kind of supports that you may have been exposed to in BPS or in your schooling, and you have to sink or swim in college. And so also hearing about this, and I appreciate Wences so much, that this is something for us to think about. It's not only getting you college and career ready, but also how do we create a network of support? Where are the alums, the immigrant alums, the EL alums of BPS? I know from my own community, many of them are doing wonderful things. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're nurses, all over the city of Boston. But I would love if a couple of them would come back and mentor. I'd love for them to come back and speak to that newcomer student at the high school level, as Maria shared her experience, to say, it's hard, you're gonna make it, and here I am as a support. Because sometimes our parents they don't know the system to navigate. So these are some of the things that I am taking away from this conversation. And I'm grateful for everyone who's been part of it, prepared it, Nasra. Thank you so much, Wences, for bringing the teacher cadet students to participate. Natalie, Angel, and Anna, I am utterly grateful for your presence, and to all members of the Boston community who participate in this conversation. Thank you.
I would like to thank my supervisor, Renee, for helping me do this, because I definitely couldn't have done it by myself. Thank you, Renee.
You're welcome. Thank you for doing a great job.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if it was open to questions yet.
You can go ahead and ask.
So I just said, sorry, my name is Yaminda Hernandez. I'm currently a staff at BPS, and I wanted to just kind of get an input on, I mean, I know I don't work at all schools, so I just wanted to see what, and also from the student's perspective, and just kind of knowing, how do you feel the school culture was, not only in your classrooms? I heard a lot about, not having teachers that spoke the same language, but also just the school as a whole, and how they were, kind of, I don't know if I'm being clear, but how the whole school experience it was, not just in your classrooms, if that made sense. And then also piggybacking off of that question, how you think it was to, for your families, and what do you think the support could look like for your families, being new to this country?
Anyone want to respond to that question?
I can say a little something. I'm not entirely sure if this answers your question, but I think in middle school is when I have the most memories of. And I remember seeing not many of the English learning students were in like the advanced work classes. I'm not sure if that exists anymore, but it was around then. We didn't have that class. It was mainly dominated by the white students. So that's something that I like remember noticing a lot, especially when I know a lot of us could have qualified for that. But language was really a barrier.
In terms of family, when I was in high school, it was only my mom and I and my little sister. So every time there was like a school parents meeting at my school, my mom wasn't able to go to the meetings because she was either working or so tired. So I was like really, I basically did everything by myself and support my teachers because my mom was always busy trying to pay for the bills and everything.
Okay, thank you for that, Angel. Thank you guys for being here. Before we close, Daphne, do you have any remarks?
I said my thank you and appreciate Emily's question. I think there is a lot of work for us to do to partner and collaborate with other staff in BPS who are not the classroom teachers, but who are there as school supports, because they're also an asset to our EL students. And sometimes we don't know how to make that right connection with the resources that they have. And so that is something that's also learning for me today. Thank you guys, y'all did an amazing job.
Thank you. I also just want to thank all of you, the panel, Asl Interpreters, BBS team that put this together. Just want to let you know, we will follow up with you by email, and we will also post a video on BBS YouTube channel, so you can share with family members and friends, and spread the word.
Okay, good night.
All right, thank you.
Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you. Good night. Buenas noches.
Good night. Thank you guys for joining.
Thank you for having us.